exercise. So you'll see how it all fits together. What I'd like to do now is show you how this project has evolved. Actually have Andy kind of go through this. What originally was zoned for the property, what previously was proposed, and how this has changed. Andy?
Thank you, Brian. Again, Andy Tritley, and one of the things we should have also reiterated is we can make all of our contact information available to you, especially if you sign up for with your email address. We're happy to send that out afterwards. I can also provide tonight. I don't have enough business cards here for everyone, but again, our goal is total transparency. We will make ourselves available to any of you. This is not the first step in our community outreach program, but it's definitely not the last. We are more than happy to come meet with you one-on-one or in small groups in the setting of your convenience. And we will also have large meetings like this again in the future. So a little bit of before and after. There's 3 columns here. The first is the existing zoning. The second is what we presented back in October in this very room. And to many of you, thank you for giving us your time to get here tonight. Many of you, it looks like, were here in October as well. And the third column is what we're proposing tonight, some changes. So first, the current zoning allows for up to 1,000 residential units. Back in October, we were talking about 1,400. Our current site plan has that down to below 1,200 homes. And I'll talk more about what that means in terms of density on the next slide. Commercial, there was 208 acres of pretty high intensity commercial out there, including employment centers and large regional retail, not just neighborhood retail. We proposed back in October 40 acres of neighborhood retail, and we're still at that level here tonight. Open space, current zoning, 29 acres of parks and open space. Back in October, we were talking about 67, we're now up to 73. And we'll spend a lot of time talking about parks and open space later in the presentation. Schools, no school site under the current zoning. In the second column, when we were here in October, we were talking about likely a cash in lieu amount paid to the school district by us as a developer and our end users, be it home builders primarily. What we're here to present tonight as an update to that is that we are proposing to provide a new school site, a land dedication at no cost to the school district as part of our contribution to solving the long-term schools system and service in Rudy Valley. Traffic, current zoning is over 61,000 trips per day. Back in October, we were at 25,000 and some change. That represented 42% of the original plan. We are now at 26,000, a slight uptick from October, and that's primarily due to that school site. We have projected that school into those numbers, and schools do generate more traffic than residential. And so a slight uptick there, but we're still at 43% of the original contemplated traffic. And then last, when the current zoning entirely in the town of Morrison, in October we were proposing that the residential would be in Lakewood, the commercial would remain in Morrison, and now the entire property is currently being proposed to be in Lakewood, so that is a significant change since October.
And private?
Correct, yes.
Is Morrison good with that?
You'll see shortly. The community plan, to answer your questions, yes, sir, and we'll touch base on that when we get to that part of the presentation. So density, the current zoning, what you see on the right here, I'll see if I can get my laser pointer to work. The current residential of 1,000 homes is concentrated in this red shaded area up in the northeast. Our proposal of just under 1,200 homes is spread out over the red shaded area you see on the right here. What that equates to is under the current zoning, there's 8.4 homes per acre of that land use, pretty intense use of that land for residential purpose. We are now below 3.9, so as you can see, less than half of the density. So although the number of homes is an increase from 1,000 to less than 1,200, the actual impact and how that will feel and live over the long term is a significant reduction in the intensity of use. Community plan. a lot of the bragging points of our community plan, we feel, are gonna come out in further slides, parks and open space, for example, and some of the technical details. So all I'm gonna talk through here is a couple of broad brushstrokes. What we're proposing over here, and again, I understand you can't read these from where you sit today. I'll do my best to point to them as the other presenters will. You can see that in more detail on the boards we've brought here tonight. We will share those graphics, but I need to coordinate with the city of Lakewood before we share some of those, because what we need to ensure is that we don't inadvertently share information that could potentially jeopardize any city council members as it relates to any quasi-judicial proceedings. But again, take photographs if you like here tonight, and we're happy to share these images in time. We did not bring handouts for you here tonight, but we will share them in time. So what I have here is, across this residential area, we're proposing 9 different housing segments. It's important for the long-term health of the community to have a broad offering of housing types. In the higher density, we have townhomes, paired homes, and single-family detached homes that are serviced from an alley, so they have a rear entry garage fed off of an alley behind the home. Those are our higher density for sale product. We have then some bread and butter single family, traditional front loaded, meaning that the garage is loaded off of the public street in front. Single family homes, and they range from a 45-foot wide lot width to a 50, a 60, and then a 70-foot wide lot width. And last is, we do have a multifamily segment, and we would love nothing more than for that to be condominiums for sale. I personally, in my background, am a huge proponent of home ownership, and condominiums is a critically important segment of the health of the Denver metro area as a whole, and the city of Lakewood specifically in this case, and the Rudy Valley in this case. I think we all know that there's been several years where that product has not been built for various reasons, and we don't need to get into everything behind that, but there has been some favorable movement towards condominiums within just the last few weeks, and so we hope that those would be condominiums for sale. But it is designated as multifamily, which means it could either be apartments for rent or condominiums for sale. And that property, which is in the southwest, is closest to the highway and the interchange at Morrison Road, with our vision being to blend the lower densities, generally away from the existing neighborhoods, to higher densities in the southwest, while still maintaining a quality land plan where we've mixed those housing segments throughout the community, instead of creating private enclaves of only one housing type segregated from other housing types. That's not the best way to develop a property of this kind for its long-term health, sustainability of property value, and other factors. The other item I want to point out is we've proposed the 40 acres of commercial down here. So that's the northwest corner of McIntyre and Morrison Road. It's immediately across from the church. We sit here in the church today. And across from there, we're proposing this neighborhood retail center. And we will do everything in our power to make that a high-quality, grocery-anchored neighborhood retail center with neighborhood services for inline retail, and hopefully several restaurant pads surrounding it to provide service for the community. Of course, we can't guarantee what that commercial would look like. The market will bear, but that's our current vision for what we would like it to be.
Property would be bought in Lakewood.
Yes, sir. The question was, would that property be in Lakewood, and that is the current proposal. So I will now turn it over to Patricia, who will talk through our parks and open space.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for coming. I've been working on the Red Rocks project for a couple of years now, but this is my first opportunity to speak to all of you about what I've been doing kind of behind the scenes. So just a little bit more about myself. I'm a licensed landscape architect here in Colorado, and I'm also a certified planner. I have 30 years of experience, and I've focused on public projects throughout my career. So really my specialty are green streets, streetscapes, parks, trail systems and whatnot. So before I get started, I just wanted to talk a little bit about parks, because a lot of times we think they're, they're pretty simple. It's a park, it's some trees and some grass, and that's it. But actually, there's a whole lot of thought that goes into park planning. And when we first started working with Andy on the parks, we talked about, okay, well, there's active parks and then there's passive parks. And, the active parks have they have the ball fields, the soccer fields, the basketball courts, those types of activities. And then the passive parks are more kind of contemplative. It's, a space where somebody, if they want to read outside and just kind of enjoy the outdoors, that's the type of park we're talking about. So what you'll see as I describe the 4 parks is really kind of a mixture of those 2 types of elements. So with that, I'll go through each of the parks. Let's see if I can figure out the point 2. Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get you some assistance there. Let me go back. From there.
Okay, again.
That's the only thing I'm good for is.
Okay.
You've got one more.
That's good.
Yeah. Do we have one?
I wish I could. Here we go. Okay. So here are our parks. Okay, it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Park number 1. This is our largest park. This is active. It's it can handle a baseball field. It can handle a soccer overlay, basketball court. We have a little bit of parking in there, picnic area. And what's really cool is we have. There we go. Okay. We have what's becoming really popular. It's like a splash pad. So what's really nice about the splash pads are, first of all, they're a lot easier to maintain. They're more hygienic and they're safer. So kids. The bottom line is they want to get wet. And so this splash pad would have water shooting up in all different locations. The amount of standing water would be minimal, and it would kind of drain and have a recirculation system associated with it. So that's park number 1. Then, let's see, park number 2 is down in this area. And this one's kind of a clean slate. This is our latest park that's we've identified. So, this is a great opportunity to kind of give us some feedback on what you think might need to be in this space. Park number 3 is over in here, and this is this kind of started out as more of a kind of a passive park. We have an opportunity, because we have some grading and grade change in here too, kind of create like an amphitheater type area. And so that's kind of what we're proposing, and would have kind of a musical thematic concept to it. We would also, one of the things I'm seeing a lot in parks are movies in the park in the evening. So, the amphitheater would provide a lot of seating, and so there's a whole lot of different types of events that could occur in this park. It also have beautiful views of Rooney Valley. So, so that's the park here. And I want to also point out that all 4 of the parks would have some type of playground, play equipment, and some of them, might have a larger, more extensive one, like in our large park over here. But typically, they're either a tot lot that's geared like for the 2 to 5-year-olds, or else it's the 5 to 12-year-olds. You really don't want to design something where you put all the kids together. So that the 5 to 12-year-olds, it's a piece of play equipment that's a little bit more challenging for them. So, and then our final park is up in here, and this is more of a kind of an adult type park. It would have like bocce ball and horseshoes. It has like a circular area with like an open turf area that you could walk around, and then also it'll connect into the trail system. So you can kind of see this dashed green line. This is the trail system. So there's a pretty extensive trail system within the property, and then you have connection points to, you know, this is kind of what Andy likes to, and I think it's a good word for it. It's like the final puzzle piece that needs to be put into the whole community in order to tie all these different recreational trails and bike paths together. So we'll have connections up in here along Yale Street, Indiana, down here by McIntyre, along Morrison, and then also 470 and a couple spots up in here. So,
Patricia, you
Yes.
might want to just click it, because we have another image.
yes, okay.
There you go.
And so, yeah, so the park over in here, you know, that we were talking about in the amphitheater, it kind of reminded me of like Festival Park that's in Castle Rock, that type of thing. And that's